off for Cirque du Maume. It's a waterfall about 2.5 hours away, and it is now Thursday, October 10. Storms beginning to break up. Not sure how much, if any, of these clouds are going to stick around. So I am just going to cruise around today and scout things out a bit. As I mentioned in my last episode, the reason that I chose Chamonix as a home base during my stay in the Alps was that it was central to several locations that I was hoping to shoot. To the east, I could get to locations in Switzerland like Lauterbrunnen, Grindelwald, or Zermatt with just a 3-hour drive. To the north, Cirque du Fer-à-Cheval was only an hour away, and to the south was the Mont Blanc Tunnel, which led to more amazing Alps in Italy. But to the west of Chamonix were miles of rugged mountains and deep tree-covered valleys with waterfalls and old stone bridges and tiny one-lane country roads that wound through small villages, most of which looked like they hadn't been touched in hundreds of years. While there were several waterfalls that I wanted to shoot near or in the Jura mountains, my first trip was a 2-hour drive to the southwest into the Parc Naturel Régional de Chartreuse to shoot a waterfall in Cirque du Saint-Meme. I was hoping to get some long exposure shots, and since it was dark and dreary with more showers in the forecast, it was a perfect day to shoot waterfalls. After a 2-hour drive, I arrived at the village just north of the park and passed 3 busloads of elementary school kids on a nature field trip who were walking up towards the falls from the village below, and I knew I'd have to hustle if I wanted to avoid 100 school kids swarming the bridge that I was hoping to shoot. I didn't punch it in wrong. A lot of really tiny village roads here. Maybe the buses had to park down there because there's no way they're going to fit up here.
In 300 meters, your destination will be on the right.
On the right?
Your destination is on the right.
It's weird there. Small area. So apparently I got to go across a little walk right past the sign if the guy hadn't pointed it out. As I took my last couple of shots, the first busload of students arrived, and it was definitely time to head back to Chamonix. Just to the immediate west of Chamonix is the Arve Valley, which surprisingly did not seem to be as well known as some of the other areas that I shot in during my stay. I drove through that valley almost every day while I was in Chamonix and couldn't get over the fact that there are at least 3 gorgeous waterfalls and some stunning scenery in that valley, and almost nobody seemed to care. Part of the reason for this is that the toll road blazes straight through the valley without many options to get off, but if you do manage to get off on the main highway, the fall colors and the waterfalls in October are definitely worth a stop. My favorite waterfall in the valley was Cascade de la Penaz, which reminded me strongly of Bridal Veil in Yosemite. If you catch that waterfall on a breezy day after a big storm, the Bridal Veil effect will definitely be there. I missed the best light on this fall several times as I just couldn't find a way off the highway fast enough, but when I finally made my way to the fall a few days later, there were just 2 or 3 other cars there and no other photographers. So I'm heading out for another waterfall location. No, it's a bridge shot in the gorge. And it is Friday, October 11. Wow, there's new snow up above. That's a great shot right there above that bridge. How do I get there? I could try and park at that overlook. There's a road going down, but there's no view because of the trees. We send up a drone right about here. If you're down on that road, you get that view. Not sure how much trouble I get in, but that's a great shot right there. When I wasn't shooting around Chamonix, the Arve Valley, or Cirque du Fer à Cheval, I would drive a couple of hours to the northwest to an area in and around the amazing Jura mountains, which are home to dozens of waterfalls. One of my first stops was the Gorges de la Ruse, which featured walking paths and bridges along a creek which had carved its way through the limestone mountains of the Jura area. It was now the second week of October, and the colors were just beginning to turn on my hike into the gorge. I come back here, I park next to the train tracks. I'm walking down, it looks like 13 minutes, down to the gorge. This is already starting to go down, the pathway. So I think I'm on the right track. heading home, or at least back towards Chamonix. It started raining. Got my bridge shot.
Meters, slight right onto moving for Cirque.
Okay, so heading out. I'm gonna try to hit another bridge shot, Quinquenouille something in Jura. And then if that doesn't work, can't find parking, etc., I'm gonna bounce off those other two locations in Jura, Harrison, and that other one, maybe Tufs. Storm is breaking up. Really cool looking atmosphere right now around Chamonix. Following my trip to Gorges de la Ruse, my next stop in the Jura area was Cascade de la Quinquenouille. This one took quite a while to find, as information on Google Earth was a bit misleading. I parked about a mile or so away, but it seemed that the locals drove right up across somebody else's field and parked much closer. The field and the path were very muddy after several days of almost non-stop rain, but after slogging my way to the trailhead, I found the waterfall after a steep climb down into another valley. This is Cascade Quinquenouille, I think is how you say it. These are just beginning to change up here. If you catch this thing maybe about what is it now, 3? 2 o'clock, 1:30 on a clear day, you might get the sun right in there somewhere. This is looking south. I ended up making 2 trips to Cascade de la Quinquenouille about a week apart, and on my return trip, I was able to get better color and light as I shot both the falls and an amazing bridge over the creek a bit higher up the trail. On my way to another waterfall in Jura, 2 hours away. And then I'm going to try to hit as many waterfalls as I can this afternoon. It is about 11 right now, right? 10:30. By the time the weather cleared on October the 20th, I was running out of time to shoot the waterfalls in and around the Jura Mountains. I had 4 waterfalls on my list that day, and I was already running a bit short on time after the 2-hour drive from Chamonix. My first waterfall of the day was Cascade de Combe in the Gorges de l'Abîme. This was another challenging location in that nothing seemed to be marked coming out of the parking area. After hunting around, I finally found the trailhead and began exploring, and eventually I found Cascade de Combe. The next location on my list introduced me to the most impressive waterfall I had seen yet, but choosing to visit on a sunny Sunday afternoon in late October turned out to be a huge mistake. I had trouble finding a parking place and the trail was crawling with people. I'm sure the effect would have been much different if I'd shown up on a rainy weekday, but this location was definitely mobbed and I definitely did not stay long. This was a shame because at the time I arrived, I was completely unaware that there are over 30 waterfalls in the Harrison Valley, and that there were 6 more amazing waterfalls just up the trail from where I turned around. Wow, look at the parking. A lot of people here.
Turn right, then. Your destination will be on the left.
It's a popular place to go.
Your destination is on the left.
We gotta get a little bit closer up here. This place is packed because it's a Sunday too, huh? I shouldn't have come here on a Sunday. That was a bad idea. And second of all, it's so built up. And the other problem I have right now is there's no signal in this valley. So I got to get out of here to get signal to figure out where I'm going to go next. I'm probably still going to dig in and try and get to Tufs. And I got 1 bar of 4G. As I headed to my last 2 waterfalls, a couple of thoughts began to occur to me. First, I promised myself that I would start with the Harrison Valley on my next trip to the French Alps, but only on a weekday, as I had picked possibly the most crowded day of this season to head to the Jura region to explore. Secondly, there was a lot more to this region than I had realized before arriving, and there was no possible way to really explore the Jura region in just a couple of days. My next stop was going to be Cascade de Tufs, which was near a village called Les Planches-Pres-Arbois, but Google first tried to take my rental car down a sketchy, partially flooded dirt road, and when I finally found an alternate way into the valley, it turned out that cars were not allowed. Beautiful little church right down here. Nice little valley. That's a cool looking cliff above that church. That's a shot right there, man. Get the church in front of that cliff with those colors. You're not helping me, Google.
Turn right onto Rue de la Coussons, then slight right onto Rue de la Cascade.
Guessing this is another wedding? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, no cars? Ah. Well, there goes that plan. Look at this town though, that's really cool. There's no cars anywhere. Is that why these people were walking down?
Rue de la Cascade. Head northwest on Rue de la Coussons D247 toward Chemin du Moulin.
It is cool. Maybe people are parked there just to get into this valley. As the parking was pretty much gone and the area was swarming with people, I bailed and headed for the last waterfall on my list. The last waterfall was located in one of the most amazing valleys of the day. As I arrived at the bottom of a steep gorge, I found the charming village of Baume-les-Messieurs. It was here that it finally dawned on me that the French, and perhaps other neighboring countries, head to the Jura region during autumn in the same way that we Americans might head to Vermont or New Hampshire to enjoy a romantic weekend away in October. It turned out that Baume-les-Messieurs was listed as one of the most beautiful villages in France, and as I drove through the town, it was easy to see why. Situated below the towering cliffs of the gorge, the winding road leads past a medieval abbey, several shops and inns, and eventually past several caves and, of course, the waterfall that I was there to shoot. Very charming indeed. But it's even more charming when the lights hit the valley floor. As I headed off on the long drive back to Chamonix, I promised myself yet again that I would make a return visit to the Jura Mountains, as there were so many amazing areas that I just didn't have time for, given the rainy weather that I had on almost every day of my trip. This was to be my last excursion to the west of Chamonix as I shifted my attention to the east for the next 2 days before finally heading back to Switzerland. My adventures in Switzerland will be coming up in my next episode, so if you'd like to see what happens next, please be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Before leaving this episode, here are a few shots from my time shooting in and around the Jura region and the French Alps in autumn.